Welcome to Chain Chatter. I'll just give a quick little overview of what Chain Chatter is. So with Chain Chatter, we talk about cross chain. Obviously we're building Leo Dex, and building the cross chain space and building out the decentralized exchange infrastructure. So we take this time, every Wednesday at noon Eastern to talk about, not only cross chain but also all the amazing projects in the space. And there's definitely no shortage of cool things happening. With this time we do, I think you dropped off the restream. But with this time, there we go. Hopefully X cooperates too. But with Chain Chatter, it's kind of interview style for the first, say 30 minutes or so. So I'll ask you about yourself and all that, and then while we're live, we have a threadcast going on our social media app called InLeo. So the audience is able to ask questions and interact in threadcast. And then, while we're going, I'll be pulling out questions, and then I'll kind of hit you with the audience Q&A at the end. So without further ado, is it Pacu? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, it's Pacu. Yeah.
Pacu, cool.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Pacu, and do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and obviously you're with Zcash, but
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in the industry.
Okay. I got into Zcash and in the industry, I think kind of 6 or 7 years ago, and I come originally from like big consumer end user applications, like mobile applications, specifically iOS. And I have a background in software engineering. Like I've been working in software since 2008, something like that. And I've been working in the gaming industry, and then in the when the apps started, like back in 2000, I don't know, it was iOS 3 or 4, like a long time ago. I started working on different kind of apps, and I always looked closer and very close to blockchain technology, but I didn't see where I could fit well. And then I found Zcash, and at the time, like ECC was looking for software developers to develop their SDK, their iOS SDK, and I saw that as a call. So I don't know if I found Zcash or if it found me actually, but I worked at ECC for a few years, and then I became an independent community contributor through Zcash community grants to work on different things. And I'm currently, I started doing contributions to many teams in the wallet and tooling, and now I'm working as a kind of a developer relations engineer for the Zcash community grants committee, and I have the privilege of working with all the teams that are in the Zcash ecosystem, like ECC, the Zcash Foundation, Zingo Labs, Han from my wallet, and people from Blockchain Commons, most grantees, a lot of grantees, ZEC Hub, and the Zcash communities like Zcash Espanol or Zcash Brazil. So it's really fun and sometimes a little bit overwhelming, because I don't know, in terms of coding, you in a busy day, maybe you code in 5 or 4 languages. But I'm kind of like that. I'm kind of a code buffet. I like coding in many languages and doing stuff. So it's fun to be able to do a little bit of everything, contribute to the Zero node, to the ECC new full node wallet, also to the new Zeno infrastructure that Zingo Labs is building, contributing to I don't know, helping to coordinate some ecosystem initiatives, and it's fun. Busy, but fun still.
Yeah, that sounds like you got your hands in a lot of jars. So what does your kind of day to day look like? I know you mentioned you're working with the grants and various teams. Is that pretty much the majority of your day?
Yeah, I have part of my work here is doing like outreach and responding to uh, ecosystem inquiries, chatting with different, for example, could be the Maya team for the Maya decks, for example, or could be um, if there's a new version of some software that people needs to be aware of, like I'm in a bunch of like groups in communication, different communication tools that we let partners know that, hey, there's this new version of Zebra, of Zcash, or this tool that you should be updating, and maybe things like that. And then other part of my day is like talking to like the teams that are already established in the ecosystem, and maybe coordinating on different cross team efforts, like for example the new Z3 stack, which is it's Z3 because like the three parts are originally start with a Z, like um, Zebra, which is the new full. It's new but not new. Like it's newer than Zcash, but Zebra has been verifying consensus for quite a while. Right now, we're at the version 2, and the version 3 is going to be released soon. And Zebra is the full node that is fully written in Rust, and instead of like being a fork of a very old Bitcoin core like Zcash is. So the ecosystem is moving away from the Zcash full node so that we can keep evolving the protocol with modern development tools, and be able to have a lot of like new and advanced features for the Zcash community and the Zcash ecosystem. But to do that, we need to retire our old and beloved Zcash a full node, and in order to say farewell and pay our respect to it, we need to replace all of its functionalities that are quite a lot. Imagine that the Bitcoin node does a lot of things, and Zcash has a lot more features than Bitcoin. So it does a lot of things, and it needs like 3 components to actually replace the Zcash node: the full node validator, with our consensus validator, which is the Zebra node, and then we have an intermediate server which maintains indices for all the data of the blockchain that is publicly available, so that like block explorers and wallets can access to. And this is like, it's called Zano. Zano is a black horse. So we have the Zebra, the Zano, and then Saleh, which is Z. It's like spelled like wallet, but with a Z, and pronounced Zaleh as ballet, which is a full node wallet that ECC is developing. So those 3 things are called the Z3 stack, and is the new stack that will be released soon. I hope that we can release it as soon as possible. We're working a lot, and it will enable Zcash to do extraordinary things, like the NU7 update, which has like the Zcash shielded assets, which are completely shielded assets, like that have the similar properties as regular Zcash, but it could be anything. Like it could be your own token, or it could be a wrap token under a treasury. It could be a stable coin. It could be a shielded Bitcoin wrapper, and everybody's so excited to get those features that we have to do a lot of work of coordinating, like three teams that have to work together to create this mesh, like stitch this infrastructure mesh that will enable the protocol to be as powerful and as private as ever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, collaborating with teams that are working on separate but related things is definitely a challenging thing to do. Can we back up for just a
Yeah.
second? We've got some people that are listening that may not know what Zcash actually is. Do you? And I know you touched on a lot of things about like what's coming and some things you're excited about. So we'll get to that too. But do you mind giving maybe like the elevator pitch of like what Zcash is and what Z does and allows people to do?
Yes. Zcash is well, there's a famous Bitcoin talk forum post from Satoshi Nakamoto before he went missing and to the underground, that he acknowledged that Bitcoin wasn't private enough, that the anonymity provided by this Bitcoin addresses was not enough privacy for an electronic cash system like Bitcoin. So he said that zero knowledge proofs will be a cryptographical advancement that would enable Bitcoin to have full privacy. But at the time, that technology was really, really new and experimental. And so some people like Zuko, for example, who is a really crypto Bitcoin OG, who I think he wrote the first blog post ever in the internet about Bitcoin, and like took that message and said, a group of people summoned Zuko. I don't know, like you should interview Zuko for the real deal of how everything was laid out. But so Zuko and a group of people started saying, "Hey, what if we actually build this zero knowledge technology on Bitcoin?" So they forked the Bitcoin code and started to work on this prototype, and then the prototype became a real thing, and about like 2015, they approached the Bitcoin core developers and saying, "Hey, we have this thing that we forked from your code, and we have all this code that does a lot of things and allows you to transact privately using zero knowledge proofs. And then if you send your Bitcoin to this special address that starts with a Z, with the letter Z, it will be completely shielded. It will be completely anonymous because nobody other than the people receiving the coins will be able to know the amount, who the recipient is, and what's the address, and it will completely hide the transaction graph from outsiders, and you can go back and forth from this shielded pool of funds to the original transparent funds that are Bitcoin, that is Bitcoin. And the technology wasn't great. It was really hard to use, and like zero knowledge proofs were really hard to calculate, and it took like 40 seconds for a laptop, a very good laptop at the time, to create the proof, to send this like super moon math transaction that nobody else can see. So the people at Bitcoin Core apparently say, "Hey, well, I don't know about that. Like, why don't you just launch your own project and we'll see later how it goes?" So that's what they did. In 2016, Zcash was born. It was October 28th, I think. And and since then, like a lot of improvements have been done. In 2018, the protocol had a major upgrade, and these proofs that were so heavy now could be done in a cell phone. At the time, like 2018, like it would be like a Samsung A9, for example, or something like that. Like we're at the latest Samsung is like 826, so there are a lot of models. Like the new cell phones can actually calculate a $0 proof in a snap. And so Zcash is like Bitcoin, but with real privacy, with the ability of choosing how private your transaction you want it to be. Like, it can be completely transparent. Like if you are like a nonprofit that wants to have like really good transparency for your donors or for the public on how your funding stream is, but also you could be a nonprofit foundation for helping whistleblowers. So maybe you want that your donors can donate anonymously because they can get in real deep shit they if they can be identified. So you could actually receive funds from the transparent pool in the transparent pool of Zcash, but the donor who is sending you is completely anonymous because it's sending you from the Zcash shielded pool, which is completely anonymous, untraceable, and it is the real unstoppable private money. Like it's like cash, real cash. If I pay you $5 for a beer in a bar, like you don't know how much money I have. You know that I have like $5, or maybe I give you a 10, and you give me a 5 back, so you at least know that I have $10 in my wallet, and that's the only thing I know. And I don't know, the barman will only learn that because he's looking at us. We're paying there, and that's it. It's cash. It's real electronic cash. As Satoshi Nakamoto envisioned and wished for.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that I find kind of fascinating, which I think the Zcash community has done a really good job, in terms of talking about it, is that, I think like the privacy money or privacy cash movement gets a lot of, bad rap because, I mean, even when you look at Bitcoin, like there's still people out there, but especially in the early days, people would say, Bitcoin is for, criminals. It's not meant for the everyday person who just wants to transact, because, if you want to transact and you're not a criminal, just use a bank account like everybody else. Obviously that ignores a lot of the world that doesn't even have bank account, access and many other reasons that are out there. And I like the way that you explained it, that it's, it's about shielded transactions, not that you're hiding something, but that, privacy is kind of a fundamental right. Like if you're, like for example, like when a company is out there and they're, paying for R&D, you don't necessarily see every transaction that they're doing out of their bank account. They have some level of privacy, even though it's within the financial network. So there's kind of like this spectrum of privacy and many more reasons than like hiding, for example. So how do you see that, kind of conversation evolving in terms of, privacy in the various use cases? I know I saw someone in the Threadcast mention, what are the actual use cases for, a privacy digital cash?
Well, I like this, how Chris Nutticum, who is one of the ECC core developers and a real cypherpunk person, laid it out. Like there is no real free economy and free market possible without privacy, because if your competitors can actually know what your, let's say you have a mom and pop's shop at some neighborhood where you live, and like if the other store around the block can know every price, like how much you pay for everything, how your cost structure is, like they totally have complete information to outrun you, to ruin you. They know who your providers are, so they can try to go there and trust your reputation with those providers so they don't sell anymore to you, and they can totally outcompete you due to information they can obtain that should be private and that is vital for your business safety. That doesn't happen because like nobody discloses their providers, nobody the disclosure, the deals they have there with their providers. Like you can have a provider that's a friend of yours and that he gives you like 25% off, and then your competitor goes to the same provider but has a price that is much higher because doesn't have that treat that you're getting because you're, I don't know, a good customer, a good friend. So um, without privacy, that is not possible. There's no free market, free competition, because um, there's a lot of information that shouldn't be disclosed, that is makes you makes it possible to have competitive advantages as like as legal businesses, like and having like really fair a fair economy where you're a better businessman than your competitor, and you get better, you have better prices for your customers, and you have more customers. And that's one use case. That is the basic thing. um, Without privacy, there is no free market, there is no free economy, there is no financial freedom whatsoever. And then about that phrase, that catchphrase, oh, I have nothing to hide, so I don't need privacy. You know who said that? Dictators. Dictators love that. They have to say you don't have nothing to hide. You're not doing anything wrong, so you won't get punished. Um, you know, you're the good one because you're not. Only bad guys need privacy because they're doing bad things, and that's not true. Like, um, when you go to the bathroom, you're not doing anything bad. Like, you just like closing the door because you want to do, your business. You want to take a shower. You want to take a leak. Whatever. You need privacy. You're a human being. You don't go out to the street to do that. Like it's privacy is like inherently human. So why not having private transactions when we exchange things?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and even in the real world, there's plenty of use cases where people use cash, um, and that is inherently private. So I mean, I've always kind of looked at that and said, anyone who says that a privacy digital cash is wrong, well, then are you out there campaigning that physical cash is also wrong? Uh, I think that that's like a really easy kind of lens to cross over. Um,
Yeah.
can you explain a little bit about, how shielded and transparent transactions work? I think
Yes.
people hear the term like zero knowledge proof, and I feel like that's kind of like a lot to unpack for just the average, even the average crypto person, let alone the average,
Yes.
normal person that's
It's
out there. So
very
do you mind
difficult to
unpacking?
explain.
Yeah. Do you mind
Yeah.
doing your best
So
to
currently,
explain those?
Zcash has like this three money pools. It has um, the transparent pool, which is ZEC, that has the same properties as Bitcoin does. Is like um, supply cap of 21 million, um, and then a UTXO model where you will go to a Zcash block explorer, and if you see addresses that start with a T, the letter T as transparent, everything is the same as Bitcoin. But then you have these other addresses that if you look at them at the block explorer, they won't return anything because they're addresses starting with a U or with a Z, which are part of the shielded world. The shielded uh, the shielded pool is what we call that those portions of the Zcash supply that are resting in shielded addresses that have been sent to these addresses that use these zero knowledge proofs to um, to hide the public uh, transaction connection. There is a graph of transactions in a public blockchain. Who like if that information is transparent, then if I send you some crypto, the block explorer will see that and say, "Oh, I sent this amount of value to address B." And that those jumps with lines create this graph, this mesh of transactions, and And with zero knowledge proofs, that doesn't exist anymore. There's a mathematical proof that it's a verifiable proof that will tell a verifier of the transaction that and when I say verifier is that whoever is sending the transaction and generating the proof and who is verifying it don't have to trust each other at all. They can be complete adversaries, like cat and mouse. You know, people that hate each other don't need to trust nothing else but the cryptographical proofs. So an evil sender can prove evil, reciprocally evil recipient that hates him that they're transacting lawfully, and that I'm sending you this one ZEC I have that I owe you from that time. We went for a beer 20 years ago. I never paid, and you got mad at me. Okay, I'm giving you that beer back with interest. And there's a lot of mathematical proof that say that this ZEC I have, it's mine. I haven't spent it before, so I'm not double spending, and I'm giving it to you. Um, and that I'm lawfully spending it. That I'm the owner. So all of that information is condensed in this zero knowledge proof. And why it's called zero knowledge proof? Because the proof itself doesn't let anyone verifying the proof what the transaction is about or what the information being proven is about. So in a blockchain, in order to have a sound supply of money, everyone needs to know that nobody is counterfeiting the currency, right? That they're not double spent. Nobody's double spending their money. So everybody needs to be able to verify this mathematical proofs. But if you are able to learn things from the operations that are involved in that mathematical proof, then there will be no privacy, because the verifier will learn about transactions. So the fact that these proofs are zero knowledge, it means that you can verify that the information and the thing that originated the proof was sound, and that the transaction that is being proven there is correct. And then you can verify and say nobody has double spent any money here, and the economical system is sound and safe and it's good, right? There's consensus of the good state of the blockchain. That's why they're called zero knowledge proofs and not just mathematical proofs.
Right. And I think one question would be, well, how does the blockchain know, user balances? And you kind of touched on this a little bit. Could you expand on it? Like
Yes.
How, with a traditional blockchain, like with Bitcoin, for example, I have the ledger just says, say that you and I are the only two people on the network. I have 2 Bitcoin. You have 1 Bitcoin. If I send 1 Bitcoin from, my address to your address, now the blockchain ledger says that you have 2 Bitcoin and I have 1 Bitcoin. If you're using zero knowledge proofs, and there's say shielded transactions happening, how do you keep that ledger of transactions and balances?
Yeah, the key is in the Coinbase. Like Coinbase is when Zcash is still a proof of work kind of protocol. We're working towards a hybrid proof of work, proof of stake, and probably in the future go to proof of stake fully. But nowadays is the proof of work. So when you do proof of work, somebody guesses the solution of this really complicated puzzle or riddle, and whoever gets that answer right gets rewarded with a Coinbase transaction, which gives you an amount of ZEC. That amount is public because you're coining ZEC. Everybody has to know that it has been coined. So the total supply is always public. Then, if you're transacting transparently, the ledger like the supply and this ledger accountability works as you described. But if you are transacting to the shielded pool or inside the shielded pools, then things are a little bit different. Currently, we have three shielded pools. One is deprecated, and you can only get money out of it, which is the first, really slow and heavy proof system from the 2016. And then, so every time you cross from one pool to the other, the amount is revealed. So fees are always public. Like transaction fees are always public. Is the only amount that in the most shielded transaction the fee will be amount will be disclosed, because the miner reward and the Coinbase are public, right? And then when you jump from transparent to shielded, the amount and the fee, but you don't know anything about the shielded recipient. When you send money from the shielded pool to the transparent pool, you don't know anything about the sender, but you do know how much money is being sent and what's the fee. And then if you're transacting inside one of the shielded pools, like for example the Orchard pool, which is the newest pool with the most modern zero knowledge technology, then nothing is known, but you know how much money went into that pool, so you can know how much value is in that pool. And if value goes out of the pool, you will know it, because the transaction, the outgoing transaction from this pool of money to this other pool of money is the amounts are revealed. So there's always a consistency and public disclosure of the supply, but then there is the people or the addresses that are involved are shielded, if there are shielded parties involved. So that's how the whole supply is maintained, and this ledger is able to be calculated through the transaction history. But then there are a lot of things that you won't know, like anything related to shielded transactions, or the people that use shielded addresses. You won't know nothing about them. Won't be able to know their balances or anything like that. But
So
still, publicly, yeah.
What a simple way of explaining that be that essentially if you have a shielded address and you have shielded ZEC, it is essentially like a claim to the shielded ZEC pool, and that's why nobody can see on the ledger. You can see the total ZEC in that shielded pool, but then say there's 100 shielded addresses, you don't know how much each of those 100 addresses can claim essentially from the ZEC shielded pool. Is that how it works in like layman's terms?
Yeah, a little bit more farther down the road, because you have no way to tell how many addresses there are for shielded.
Right. So it could be 100, could be 1,000, could be 10,000. Yes. There's no way to know. And and essentially the ZEC is actually like technically in the shielded ZEC pool, right? Like it's not actually in the addresses. Is that how you would kind of explain it?
Yes. Somebody rang the door. Sorry about that.
You're
yes. Just give me 1 sec.
Oh yeah, take your time. Yeah, just I'll read through some comments while Pacu handles that. I see you guys were talking about the ZEC price. Yeah, it's about $51 right now. A bunch of you guys are sharing that in the threadcast. Yeah, Mod Manga said, just use a bank account like everyone else. Yeah, a lot of people are unbanked. Some can't even bank if they wanted to. I think that's a huge case. I see Zcash Nigeria in the X space, and I just think that depending on where you come from in the world, like your perspective on finance in general can be so different. Yeah. But anyways, I was just reading the comments while you were doing that. But we were talking about the shielded pool and it essentially being like a claim.
Yes, it's in the shielded. When you have transparent ZEC, as in Bitcoin, you have UTXOs, which are unspent transparent outputs. And in the shielded world, you have shielded nodes, which are portions of ZEC. It's like having a banknote, but of a arbitrary amount, like, flexibly. It can be 1.1234567 8. And so then you have that node, or you have many of Zcash shielded nodes, and then you have a way of and every portion of Zcash has a thing called a nullifier. A nullifier is a piece of information that, when revealed, it proves that shielded node that you have has been spent. So when you spend a portion of Zcash, you reveal the vault nullifiers, and then through change and new outputs for the people you're sending ZEC to, new portions of new shielded nodes are created, and the new owners know which are those nullifiers. So all this information is validated through the data integrity mechanism of the blockchain, which is the blocks and the hashed information, and also the zero knowledge proofs. So given that you have been successfully proving that you have some ZEC and you are the owner of it, and you're spending it to someone else's address, then the collective soundness and verification of all the zero knowledge proofs gives you the guarantee that the money supply is sound, and that there has been no counterfeiting. That has the problem with that is that privacy comes with its disadvantages in terms of like complexity and performance. Like, you need to track a lot of things, and if you until today, or until a few months ago, the only way of keeping things privately is to compute those things yourself. So a Zcash wallet that uses shielded ZEC does a lot of work, does a lot of calculations, does a lot of math, a lot of proving, and a lot of verifying, and that makes Zcash like heavier to run than your usual blockchain, because
Oh, I think you may have frozen for a second. I'm not sure if that's just on mine. Oh, there you go.
I got it.
Oh, you're back.
I'm cold. Yeah. So you
were talking about how the Zcash blockchain requires a lot more.
Yeah, privacy comes with these drawbacks. Like, for example, for the case of Monero, they give server, and the server does a lot of scanning and detect the funds of in Zcash, the server, a full node server or a light wallet server, and does a lot of computation. So if you outsource that to somebody else, that person will learn about your funds. So that's why privacy needs that you do a lot of computation on your own, and it complicates things. It's sorry for the back connection. I don't know if you lost me.
No, you're good. You're good. I can still hear you.
Yeah, but that's who is one of the original core developers and creators of Zcash, which has there's something called Project Tachyon, or I don't know how you pronounce it because it's a foreign word to me. Like I think it's Tachyon, um, and it means that he found a way to actually use also zero knowledge proofs to actually or this amount of uh, and so that those servers don't learn anything about uh, you and can take care of processing a lot of transactions, or which will enable scaling Zcash to the millions of payments without your phone blowing into pieces or heating up or just um, degrading your battery because it's like processing too much.
Yeah.
Too much stuff.
So right now,
So that's going to change everything.
yeah. So right now, could you maybe explain like so what's the situation right now in terms of you kind of touched on a little bit, but what's the situation right now in terms of just like your everyday kind of ZEC user, and then if they do want privacy, you're kind of saying they have to run essentially their own full node, and then what does this solution kind of look like um, as it rolls out?
um, there's, but currently, either you run your node or you use a mobile wallet or a desktop wallet that connects to a server and knows about the blockchain size of that server that serves compact blocks, not full blocks, but like shrunk down blocks, like 90% lighter than a full block, and that allows like uh, these wallets to be able to transact privately without having to know everything about the blockchain, but also not revealing their own information. And then in the future, it will be possible to when he explained this the last CCon conference, that the Zcash ecosystem conference, like he envisioned that. Sorry, he envisioned that with this new breakthrough, he discovered that it would be possible to have servers that help you compute all that all those calculations. Then instead you need to maintain to create these zero knowledge proofs, and so that the proofs are very quick, but the information you need to be up to date to in order to generate them, it's kind of cumbersome. So by outsourcing all that work, then you will be able to scale the Zcash network to the thousands or a million payments per block or per second, and and that hit on performance that comes with privacy won't be such, because you will be able to use these that make sense. Maybe there's a new economy that it is brought up because you have to pay for the server cost or something like that, but then you will be able to transact really quickly, seamlessly with your phone or with your desktop computer without having to be a full node.
So is it kind of
with
like
little requirement.
is it kind of like a light node then, in a certain sense? I know this has become kind of a
It's an
bigger
even
topic.
light. We have a light node structure at the moment, which light wall that is full node and on a mobile wallet, for example, like iOS and Android wallet. but this will be even lighter. That today, like your shielded wallet does a lot of work to sync, for example, and then when Project Taken is live, this won't be necessary. Like this would be just open your wallet. There is, um, I guess, not much syncing to do with the whole thing, and being able to verify and create new proofs uh, very easily, because you have this servers that don't learn anything about you, and you don't need to trust them either, and still be able to use their information to participate in the Zcash blockchain.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, it's very cool. So kind of taking a little bit of a step forward. So we kind of covered,
Yeah.
the basics of what Zcash is and kind of how it works. And then, earlier on, you were talking about some of the things that are coming. Now that everybody understands kind of how shielded pools work, and shielded transactions work, how is that going to kind of play out in the future as these? You mentioned the ability to potentially have like other assets on the Zcash network that can be transacted, privately. How is that going to work?
Well, I think that uh, it will be hard to predict, but we've seen there are similar Amada, which is, um, and in this case, it will be a little bit different, because the Zcash shielded assets are native assets, is not necessarily wrapped assets. Like the you could create your own shielded assets for your own purpose, and be an issuer of it, and it then has with it, and then um, it will have the same properties as native Zcash does. So you could actually create a stable coin, for example, that is completely shielded. Because one problem that I always have when I when I pay or agree with somebody to pay in crypto is that volatility. It's a too high price to pay for people that make a living from services and producing, or any goods or any services they sell. So they sell. So having a private, like a privacy guarantees, as Zcash does with, for example, a stable token, it will enable people to actually um, have real electronic cash that they can um, rely on using without fearing too much of volatility. For example, so because you can win, but you can also lose. And like, for example, you are a shop that needs to repurchase the article you just sold, and volatility blew away a portion of of your um, of your gains of that sale. Then you can't rebuy the article you just sold, and it's a tragic is a tragedy for a store. So um, I think that that's one of the main use cases. Then I guess that there will always be meme coins.
There will always be meme coins.
Uh, yes, I always said that the first Zcash shielded asset should be a meme coin, um, so that we can have fun, transact, make jokes, and test the protocol without nobody getting hurt. And fortunately, we Zcash has a very strong auditing and like scrutiny culture. So things that go out into production are very well firms and auditors, but still, there's the one thing is things being live and others being just in development. So I think meme coins are great to explore dynamics of the real world, and I hope to see those Z
Yeah.
memes, shielded memes.
I like that. Yeah, and I agree. I think meme coins are really good for just getting people excited and using something. And honestly, I think they're really great for testing because people don't take them too seriously. So if you can kind of fall back on the idea that it's mostly a joke, but we do get some actual value out of it.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time here, but I wanted to
Mhm.
get at least maybe 2 or 3 audience questions in. So
Yeah.
one of them, and I'm sure you hear this one a lot, is how can ZEC balance regulatory pressure while still preserving user privacy? And that's from Khan on Instagram.
Well, I think that Zcash properties of abilities of different payment disclosures are something that regulators usually seek. They're part of the protocol. Zcash is that we to like it's like the developers meme, right? We need to scale our development community by an order of magnitude because there are a lot of things to do and not so many people. So the ecosystem is working a lot to bring new developer companies and folks, independent developers as well, because the Zcash protocol has a lot of features that allow you to disclose individual payments to third parties, but that don't have like proper support or that haven't been implemented yet for some parts of the protocol because we hadn't had the bandwidth to. And this is like somehow somewhat complicated and is not something that someone can just jump in and do. Right? Like the approach of the cash protocol in terms of like possible regulations. Also, regulations are a moving goalpost. I think that ultimately it's a mistake to try to constantly um, like bend yourself to different regulations because there can always be an extra thing. So it's difficult to plan or something or to grow up with those parameters because it's always a moving goalpost. You can just round towards it and they will get farther and farther away. So I think that the Zcash protocol, in terms of like of regulations that have to be transparent, leading to this of value and where the value is coming or going to. Well, I think that Zcash has the property that people can consent to disclose things if they want to. And then uh, and that's it. Like you could, for example, for CSAs, you can set up a viewing key that will let everybody know like how the asset is being issued. Um, um, you currently, as for example, a nonprofit, you could set a viewing key for your wallet and so that people can sync and know what um, and I think that's the approach Cash has in terms of like information disclosure. The important thing is that nobody can disclose information besides the owner of the information, like not your keys, not your coin. And if you're owners of the keys, if you don't choose to disclose things, things won't be disclosed, and that's the main philosophy there. Then I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a developer. And don't know much about regulation, so I can't say much about it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's like one of the biggest questions that comes up. I mean, in the industry as a whole, but especially when it comes to things like this. And I'm a big fan of.
There are exchanges that.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. There are
No, you're good.
exchanges that like I don't want to say any brands, but there are exchanges that have withdraw to a shielded address. They're very renowned, very huge exchanges. So they haven't had any issues with regulators because those are like U.S. based exchanges and fully regulated, and they have been able to adopt our shielded technology. So I guess it's possible. It's not technically easy, maybe, but legally it is possible.
Yeah,
They have done it and passed the audit, all the regulation things they have to go through.
yeah, and I think they tend to kind of be those leaders because they have those legal teams out there, reading, understanding all these nuances. And as you said, they're always evolving. But I am a huge fan of just, at least the entire point of crypto is like user choice and like the ability to have. I mean, freedom really is, when you distill it, freedom is all about choice. So if you want to do something, if you want to be, if you want to transact transparently, that's your choice. If you want to transact, in a shielded way, that also should be your choice. So I do really appreciate that about the general model and setup, which is that it's very much framed around user choice, which I'm a big fan of. So last question here before we let everyone go. From DataStat is, does ZEC have any plans on creating something like a Lightning Network to facilitate micropayments? And this might be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about maybe speed and fees for anyone in the audience that maybe has never used Zcash in any way.
Oh, sorry, you totally broke up for me.
You're good. You're good.
So turn off video.
Yeah, you're good. So it's just about, does Zcash have any plans to do something like a Lightning Network essentially for micropayments? And then maybe if you want to take the opportunity to talk about the speed and cost of transactions on Zcash.
Oh, I can't hear anything. Sorry. So sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm not in my best connection days. If you can hear me.
No worries. I can still hear you. Can you hear me? Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll just TLDR the question. Does Zcash have any plans to do a Lightning Network and kind of similar to Bitcoin for micropayments? And then maybe if you want to touch on speed and cost of transactions.
Every time you start saying the question, it breaks up.
No worries.
But yeah, like Lightning Network. No, what we have is that Zcash has a fee structure that is variable, but it doesn't have a lot of fees, so it's very suitable for micropayments. It's not that you will have a transaction that will have higher fees than the value that is involved. So the term micropayments doesn't make much sense in the Zcash world at this very moment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, for a transaction with 2 inputs and 2 option, it are 0.0001 ZEC, like a a thousandth of a ZEC, so it's not much. So the fees are not really high so that we need to create some layer on top because micropayments are not economically valuable in that sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So it's kind of already at that place where you don't, the need for that. For example, on the Bitcoin network, really came out of the fact that transactions were so expensive. So yeah, that's awesome to hear. So transactions are already cheap enough that it just it's not needed. Yeah, that's great. Well, I know the connection's a little spotty, so I just want to say thanks, Pacu, for doing this. It's been really awesome, and I've honestly learned a lot about Zcash. I saw a lot of people commenting that they've learned a lot as well. I think your explanations have been very helpful, especially with the way that shielded pools work. I think kind of walking away from this, for me at least, is a much better understanding of that. Anything you want to leave the audience with? Where to keep up with you and everything Zcash?
Yeah, I think that good places to start knowing and learning about Zcash are ZEC Hub, and then you can keep up with me with on or X. I'm at the Code Buffet there, or then you can go to zechub.wiki, which ZEC Hub is a DAO of Zcash enthusiasts, and and learning material, developer materials as well, tutorials. So it's a great place to learn about Zcash, and don't be scared by the moon math. It's you can download a Zcash wallet. It could be Zingo, could be Y Wallet, could be Sashi, or could be also I've seen Voltisig that I'm starting to play with here, to try to do some exchanges, some dexes here and there, and just have fun. And you can always post your shielded address in X, and people will send you messages through the Zcash shielded memos properties that I forgot to mention. Every shielded node can only the recipient can see it. So if you download a Zcash wallet, you post your unified address or shielded address into X, and people will send you welcome messages because the Zcash is a very welcoming community.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I have noticed that as well. Since the My Protocol integration, obviously we were able to add Zcash to Leodex, so you're able to swap, in and out of Zcash, and the ZEC community in general has just been really, really awesome so far. So yeah, thanks again for doing this, and thanks everyone for coming in and listening, and we'll get these recordings up ASAP. Thanks, Pacu. Have a good rest of your day.
Well, thank you so much for having me in the show, and well,